When it comes to the motivation that underlies the initiative that's called Draw Mohammed Day, I think Andy and Akantavat put it very well when he explained that there may be different reasons why a person might decide to participate in Draw Mohammed Day. On the one hand, you've got the people to whom this is purely an issue of freedom of expression and protecting this right that we've fought so hard to attain. And that, like Andy, I can appreciate and I can support if you're doing this purely and exclusively in order to demonstrate how you have the right to freedom of expression and that will never be taken away from you, then, as far as I'm concerned, you will be participating with my blessing. Not that you need my blessing, don't get me wrong, I am in no position here to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't be doing, but of course I am in a position here, and this is demonstrating my freedom of expression, of observing what other people are doing, and to present my own opinions of it. I have as much a freedom of opinion as everybody else, and if I think that something is childish or obnoxious, then I reserve the right to say this. And this leads me to the other reason that Andy pointed out, that some people might decide to participate in Draw Mohammed Day. And this is purely, as he put it, to put the finger up, to flip the bird at the Muslims and to produce something with the explicit intent to be as offensive as humanly possible. And that is something that I find childish, infantile and ridiculous. Doesn't mean you haven't got the right to do it, and that's something I have never said, that you don't have the right to do it. But, like Andy pointed out again, it does come with this unmistakable whiff of bigotry, and that is something that I for one do not wish to be associated with. And that there is definitely an undercurrent of bigotry in the organizing elements of this stunt is something that will become very clear when you look at the way people are responding to those who voice their objections to this Draw Mohammed Day stunt. Because anybody who is voicing their objections will inevitably be accosted by a whole horde of thunder drones, as I like to call them. That, of course, is their right as well. But what I find quite peculiar about them is how these people seem to be hell-bent on construing everything that is being said in opposition to Draw Mohammed Day. Any opinion that expresses that Draw Mohammed Day may not be such a great idea, or that there is the whiff of bigotry around how some people are participating in this event, that those people are somehow PC, for example. And that doesn't mean in this case Pinot Carafa, it means politically correct, and of course with all those lovely insinuations and negative undertones that always comes with. These people are appeasing Muslims. They are bending over. They are getting it from the Muslims. They are giving in to the bullying, and they are giving in to the unreasonable and hysterical demands. And to illustrate that this is simply incorrect, I want to refer to something I did about a year ago when Thunderfoot was first presenting his histrionics about Islam, about Muslims, about freedom of speech and ideas such as Draw Mohammed Day. And I pointed out to Thunderfoot in a video that I thought he was being hysterical and he was being ridiculous, and to top it all, he was showing an utter inability to come to a nuanced position about Muslims. Because after all, as I never get tired of pointing out, there are, whether you say 1 billion or 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, and as a result of any population that big, they come in all sorts of flavors, from the most liberal-minded people to the most reactionary and bigoted scumbags, basically. That whole spectrum is represented in the Muslim population. And to talk about Muslims as if they are a homogeneous blob of humanity in which every individual thinks in exactly the same way, or even should think in exactly the same way, and this obligation is enforced on all of them, is simply, from a practical perspective and a rational perspective, utterly preposterous. It's never going to be like that in a group that big, no matter what ideology they follow. 1 billion communists in China are not all reactionary communists that do not support any form of freedom of speech either. There may be an apparatus in authority over that group, or a group of people that think they are in authority over that group and that make reactionary statements and to try to oppress the large majority of the people in that group. But the group itself consists, as I've said already, of people of all sorts of levels of tolerance, of liberalism, and so on and so forth. And that is what I am objecting to, and that is why I am objecting to the Draw Mohammed Day initiative, because it does have this tendency of placing us in opposition to, not just, as some people do see it, this attempt to undermine our freedoms, but as many who are participating see it, and that is obvious from the way people are responding to me and other people who are voicing their objections, many people see this as us against the Muslim threat. And that is something that I reject out of hand. That is something that I wish to have no part of whatsoever. And to illustrate, because that's what I was going to do, I promised you earlier, I was going to illustrate why there are definitely many people who look at it exactly in that way, and to whom no amount of tolerance towards any Muslim is acceptable. I want to refer you to that video I posted almost a year ago when Thunderfoot went hysterical the first time. Because in that video I did something very peculiar, and I'm not sure some of you even noticed this. But during that video I actually produced a cartoon image of Mohammed that I had drawn myself. It wasn't even just a cartoon. It wasn't a neutral image. It was in actual fact quite an insulting image of Mohammed. It was an image in which he looked demented, and on his head there wasn't a turban, there was something brown, sticky and smelly on his head. And yet not a single Muslim complained about this. Why not? Because they had enough wisdom to see the context of the video, the context in which that image was produced, for what it was. And that is the interesting point, because even though I clearly arrogate to myself the freedom of expression that allows me to produce an image such as that, what I will not do and what I will not participate in is this frenzy of hatred and bigotry directed at 1.5 billion people. And those of you who feel the need to come berate me about how I respond to Draw Mohammed Day in the light of these liberties that I have already taken for myself and that nobody will take away from me, in the light of all that, it is clear that the only thing you will be happy with is if we all turn into rabid, Islamophobic bigots. And that is never gonna happen. No matter how many idiots come ranting and raving on my channel. If you don't like what I have to say, you better go listen to somebody else, because I'm never going to shut up about it. Bigotry is bigotry is bigotry, no matter what quarter it's coming from. Have a good day.